Part 3 of how and why the settler colony of Israel became the vegan capital of the world. Make sure you go back and visit previous parts to understand the relationship between the Israeli government and how they use animal rights as part of their vegan washing propaganda campaigns. During the following period, between the years 2014 to 2016, the focus has shifted more from internal propaganda to external propaganda. Now keep in mind, all of these events that I've mentioned and that I will mention are happening simultaneously between the four quadrants that we talked about before, internally and externally. Some are directed at Jewish Israelis, while others are directed at Western Jews, as well as foreigners who have nothing to do with Israel, in order to help them with the vegan washing of their crimes. So, get this. During the early times of incorporating plant-based foods into the Israeli occupation forces, a soldier who took part of the 2014 aggression in Gaza, which by the way was the worst aggression prior to the 2023 genocide, he protested the lack of variety of vegan food within the army. So, what did the army say? Here's a quote. "The right to food is a basic right, and it is only right that the IOF, take the needs of the vegan community." Basic right, huh? Remind me again, who voted against making food a human right? Yeah, not to mention that this basic right is very selective, since they already had a calorie count system for the food that's allowed into Gaza under the 18-year siege. It was 7 years at the time. Since the unfolding of all of these events that I've mentioned in this video and in prior videos, global media also jumped to cover the so-called vegan revolution in efforts to vegan wash the crimes of the IOF. Take for example this 2015 interview with a vegan soldier in NPR, where he says, "The vegan reform in the IOF is paving the way for an even more moral army." Another example of the media using animal rights to vegan wash Israel's crimes is this article in The Atlantic in 2015. Here's a quote by one of the major generals. "We are striving for equal opportunity to allow vegan soldiers to live honorably and serve the country in the best manner possible." There's also a 2016 interview by the BBC with another vegan soldier where she claims, had the army not been able to provide conditions that harmed no living creatures, she might not have enlisted. I guess she doesn't see Palestinians as living creatures who deserve no harm. You'll notice that this is the point where they're shifting from vegan nationalism into moral superiority, or vegan superiority. Keep in mind that at the very same time, the official IDF accounts on social media have also been promoting Israel as a vegan capital, specifically highlighting the vegan initiatives within the IOF, where they provide leather-free boots and plant-based foods to their war criminals. And yes, they're posting this on World Vegan Day, and it's in English. But these stories don't end there. It's not just the media and Israelis doing propaganda internally. There were also Israeli animal rights activists who were going to international events within the animal rights movement, as well as on US campuses to give lectures and educate the Western vegan community about Israel's vegan revolution. Take, for example, this person, Ori Shavit. She's one of the prominent Israeli animal rights activists, and she's been involved heavily in government propaganda. Let me explain. First, she became one of the chefs that would host Meatless Mondays in the Knesset. She then went on to give workshops to the IOF to teach them how to incorporate vegan meals for their soldiers. She's also interviewed occasionally by Israel 21C. We talked about them earlier in previous videos. But remember Hillel International, the campus organization for Jewish students to make them relate to Israel? Well, they partnered with her to give lectures on US campus about Israel's vegan revolution. By the way, just a fun fact about Ori Shavit. Recently, she was supposed to be speaking at a vegan festival in Norway to give lectures about veganism. But apparently she was denied because she was traveling with a group that was organized by the Israeli embassy. So she is an official representative of the state of Israel. And she's using veganism to attend animal rights events and vegan wash Israel's crimes. Apparently, she reached out to the organizers of the event and said that she's not there to promote Israeli policies, but to speak about animal rights, which is an important topic all around the world. And unfortunately, she was allowed to speak, provided that she would communicate with the festival on her own behalf, rather than through the Israeli embassy. Another prominent Israeli animal rights activist with the name Chen Cohen, who is part of the vegan friendly organization, also attended the 2016 International Animal Rights Conference to Vegan Wash Israel, where he talks about the vegan army, talks about Uri Shavit's initiatives, talks about vegan friendly's initiatives, including the vegan festivals, the protests, and even tries to normalize by showing that there are Arabs marching side by side with Jews to protest for animal rights. He also touts the Prime Minister, Netanyahu at the time, for adopting the Meatless Monday campaign. In 2016, the infamous Zionist organization Stand With Us, whose work focuses on delegitimizing the BDS movement, invited an Israeli animal rights activist by the name of Eitan to give speeches about Israel's vegan culture. And when he was confronted by Esther Alon, another researcher on the topic of veganism in Israel, where she asked if there's any contradiction to showcasing the vegan scene in Israel through Stand With Us, he said, Israel does have a bigger or a larger sensitivity for animals than other countries in the world, and that is something to say that is good about Israel regarding the treatment of animals. Again, this is an example of using animal rights to vegan wash Israel's crimes by saying, hey, we're doing good stuff for the animals, ignore all of the oppression and all of our crimes towards Palestinians. And that wasn't the only time Stand With Us used an activist from Israel to promote it as a vegan haven and use animal rights to clean up its image. Again, in 2016, they invited Chen Cohen, which we talked about earlier, who is part of Vegan Friendly and who attended the International Animal Rights Conference, to speak at a US campus in Los Angeles. This is a direct quote from Stand With Us Director of Campus Affairs about this topic. Cohen's message will help students broaden their pro-Israel message to their peers. Another thing that was going on during this time period was something called Vegan Congress, which is an event that was organized by Vegan Friendly, where they invite international animal rights activists from outside to come and visit Israel and give speeches. Many of them ended up posting about this event and about Israel's vegan revolution all over the social media, and some continue to post to this day. These vegan congress events included speakers like Miki Heimovich, who we talked about earlier, as well as having featured talks by Cowspiracy filmmaker, Sea Shepherd captain, and Mercy for Animals founder. Israel 21C wrote about these conferences saying, this reflects two trends. One is that prominent vegan activists realize the importance of Israel's leadership role in this revolution. The other is that animal welfare is the top priority of Israeli vegans. Again, this solidifies what was mentioned earlier about Israel wanting to be the vegan nation, making veganism part of their national identity, as well as getting moral superiority for being so caring for animals, in addition to gaining traction on the global stage to be seen as the leader in this vegan revolution, legitimizing its status as the vegan capital of the world. And in the following year, they held an animal rights protest where they had PETA's founder go in and address Israel and tout them for their progressiveness and for their morality in advocating for animal rights. Here's another thing that PETA said with regards to Israel's veganism. Vegan travelers will find a lot to like in Israel. The country is a leader in the switch to vegan eating. Plant-based restaurants are thriving and easily accessible to the 1 million Israelis out of a population of 8 million who don't eat meat. This is just in case you're wondering why PETA has been dead silent about the genocide in Gaza and the oppression of Palestinians by Israel over the past 2 years. Another notable example that indicates that Israel is planning to invest in its alternative protein and food tech industry is this animal rights activist with the name Tal Gilboa, who is also good friends with Gary Yourofsky. She's also known as Israel's angriest vegan. She participated in the Big Brother show and she won, where she gained a lot of popularity for discussing animal rights and veganism and wearing shirts that say meat is murder. During the show, a financial magazine in Israel conducted a survey and they found that 60% of viewers planned to change their eating habits and eat less meat as a result of Gilboa's appearance in the show. That's nice and everything, but here's the interesting part. In an interview with Gilboa, she mentions that she's the founder of the Israeli branch of the Animal Liberation Front, an international group. However, she notes that they're not as extreme, referencing the people with the masks and all the scary stuff, and she says, and I quote, we're not Hamas, "We're not ISIS," saying that that's exactly the opposite of what's needed in Israel. There's a lot more about Tal Gilboa that we'll get into in later parts of this conversation. During this time period, Israeli embassies would be publishing on their official websites and social media about how Israel is the vegan capital of the world. They highlight Israel's cuisine, which is stolen from Palestinians, and how it's already naturally vegan friendly. But they also highlight the technological advancements within the food tech industry that allows for meat alternatives. And that is something that is focused on later on in this timeline, but they were already prepping ahead for it. And the reason is because they want Israel to be portrayed as a leader in alternative protein in order to draw investments, which does happen, but later on. And we'll talk more about it in part 4 of this series.